Sometimes, learning English feels like waking up in a completely different world. You start with a simple goal, maybe learning to order food or ask for directions, but suddenly, you're surrounded by new words, new sounds, and nothing looks familiar. But that's exactly when real learning happens. Through unexpected stories, just like this one. If you're ready to explore English through true, strange, and unforgettable moments, hit subscribe to Speakology. Let's begin. I was exhausted. It had been a long day in a city I didn't know very well. I had been traveling for work, running from one meeting to the next, barely stopping to eat. By the time I hailed a taxi late that night, I was running on fumes. All I remember is getting into the back seat and telling the driver the name of my hotel. I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes for just a second. The next thing I knew, I was waking up. But this wasn't my hotel. It wasn't even the same city. The taxi had stopped on a quiet street. The sun was rising. I blinked, trying to understand what I was seeing. There were palm trees. A huge white church. A bakery just opening its doors. And a sign in a language I didn't recognize. It took a moment before I realized the truth. I was somewhere completely different. The driver turned to me and said something cheerful in a local dialect. I didn't understand a word. I reached for my phone, but it was dead. No GPS, no translation app, nothing. I looked around, completely lost. Then I remembered the hotel's business card in my pocket. I showed it to him, pointing and raising my eyebrows. He shook his head and pointed back the way we came. That's when I noticed the meter. I had been in that taxi for over 3 hours. Somehow, I had given the driver a name that sounded like my hotel, but existed in a completely different city with a similar name. And because I had passed out cold, he drove the whole way, assuming that's where I wanted to go. No questions asked. I didn't panic, not really. It was one of those moments where your brain doesn't quite know how to react, so you just accept it. We found a tiny cafe with Wi-Fi, and I charged my phone. I was able to get my bearings and call the hotel, yes, the original hotel, to explain what happened. They were confused but kind, and helped arrange a ride back. I spent half the day returning to where I had started. By the time I arrived, I felt like I had lived a full extra life. But the strangest part? That accidental detour led me to a city I never would have visited otherwise. And now, months later, I remember that early morning, standing on a strange street with a dead phone and the smell of fresh bread, as one of the most peaceful moments of my trip. It reminded me that sometimes, mistakes in travel, just like mistakes in language, can take you somewhere better than you planned. So what can you take away in English from this story? Useful travel expressions like hailed a taxi, passed out cold, get your bearings, and dead phone. You saw how to tell a story with time markers, emotional language, and clear sequencing. And maybe you also saw how staying calm and curious, even when things go wrong, can help you grow your English faster. If you've ever taken a wrong turn, ended up somewhere unexpected, or just love stories that surprise you, hit that subscribe button on Speakology. Leave a comment and tell me, where did your strangest journey begin? Learning English is like travel. Even when you fall asleep halfway through, you might wake up somewhere amazing. See you in the next one.